This is database Video5, and we're looking at database design data types. For the moment, folks, if you can just take notes, when you design your database, you have these options: short text and long text. If you're looking at anything lower than Access 2013, it will be text and memo. Memo is the equivalent of long text. But in 2013 and up, which is what we're all using, your choice is short text and long text. In short text, you need to know the limitations. Short text is a data type that will enable any characters up to 255 characters. Okay, it's really there for single words, maybe a sentence or two for a field. If you're going to put into a thing something like an essay or a whole heap of notes, so maybe you're making something for a doctor, and a doctor would like to take a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs of notes. So it'd be something like appointment notes for that particular appointment. Then you'd make that long text. Okay. So they're the options in a text field. Now, text fields can take any characters at all. And please don't forget, phone numbers and postcode numbers have to be text fields, okay, or you will lose marks. Then we go into number fields. Now, I know it doesn't look like it, but number, date, time, currency, and auto number, and in actual fact, to a certain extent, yes, no, are all number type fields. Okay? Theoretically, in a computer, they are all number type fields. So when we have a look at number, we've got a number, sorry to say that, but we've got a number of options. I might just try to make a new field down here. Blah, blah, blah. And in the number field, we've got these different field sizes. And you need to know, I will now tell you, under number, you need to know these particular types. Byte, integer and long integer, single and double, and stop right there. Don't do anything with replication ID or decimal. Just creates hassle. Okay? So the only number fields I want you to have until you get into third year university is to just remember byte, integer, long integer, single, and double. The other two you can just forget. What you also need to do is you need to know what the characteristics of them are. And when you look at the characteristics, you need to look at the data that's going to be put in to get an idea. You need to have an idea what format that number is going to be in. And a byte, the characteristic of a byte is that it's a whole number between 0 and 255. Who can tell me how many numbers that is? 256, because it starts at 0. Okay? So 0 to 255. And you would use that if you've got a whole number and it's always between 0 and 255. The reason being is, you know why it's called a byte? It actually takes up 1 byte of space. Okay? Can't be negative numbers. As soon as it can have a negative number, you can't have a byte. As soon as it's a fractional or a number bigger than 255, you can't have it as a byte. But if the numbers are all within that, say for example year level at a school, year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you can't have a year level that's 255, you can't have a negative year level. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have it as a byte. Is there someone waiting for you? That's okay. So you need to know that, and you need to make your databases as efficient as possible. So if it is a byte, make it a byte, or you'll lose marks. Okay. Integers. Integers are whole numbers, negative and positive, between about negative 32,000 and positive 32,000. I can't remember the exact number. Okay, but if the numbers are whole numbers, negative and positive, and they're not, bigger than 30, and not smaller than 32,000, and not larger than positive 32,000, then it's okay to make it an integer. A long integer is a heaps small negative whole number and a huge positive whole number. Now, you know what I mean by small negative number? That means, negative 5,733,235. Where a lot of people go wrong is that they think if there's a number that's got decimals in it, they look to put the decimal field in. Don't. Use single or double. Single field is a number that can be a radical number from, I don't know what it is. It's, minus 50 quadrillion 0.00 up to positive whatever it is. If you're going to be using huge scientific numbers or small scientific numbers, then you would use double. Okay, so if you're getting into nanotechnology, if you're getting into kilometres away from stars and all that sort of stuff, and they're huge numbers or very small numbers in terms of scientific notation, then double is the best way to go. By and large, not many people make a database for me that require double, and not many have long integer. So most of the times you'll be using byte, integer, and single. Okay? Now let's say, for example, folks, you made a field. It's bad, by the way, but if you put a field in for the age of a person, I'll explain to you why it's bad to have a field later on called age. But if you had an age of a person that had whole numbers as the age, and let's assume that the oldest person you can have is 125, okay? So we've got people who are born, so they're at least 0 years old, and then they get less than 125, and they're all whole numbers, and you make it a single or a double or even a long integer, whilst the database will still work, you'll have marks taken away because it's not the most efficient design. Is that clear? Okay, so that's really important. But always look first, can the number be a byte? If so, make it byte. But as soon as it's got decimals or numbers less than 0 or numbers bigger than 255, it cannot be a byte. You've all got the idea? I will send you a document that will show you all of the data types. But it's important for me to talk through the scenarios. Okay. There's also date time. Now, date time should be used when you're using dates of any significance or time in a day. It is a special type. It is a special type of a number field. And very wisely choose an appropriate format. Okay? It's got these little wizards in there. But if you're just looking at short date, then fine. If you want consistency, you need to make sure that someone types in an appropriate way. And in Australia, we probably prefer the short date method. Okay? So that's a date time field. Why you might want to do that is you might want to do that when someone's coming in and buying something from you, and you want as a default value the current date. So it puts in by default the current date and maybe even the time in which you've actually sold that particular item. Currency you can have set to dollars, etc., yen if you wanted to. And decimal places is auto. Decimal places, 2 decimal places, most of the times is what we need. But if you're in a business where you actually pay someone, $23.0567 because that's the award rate, then you may need to put in 0.067 and therefore make it 4 decimal points. If I'm going too quick, then please remind me. There are sorry? Yes? You want me to slow down? Where did I get to?
Oh, no, I'm up to that. It's very fast.
Oh, yeah. Am I right? I will actually provide you with, what you could do if you want me to go slower, you could actually get the movie and then put it in 0.8 speed. Or you could have a chipmunk Rob. 1.3 speed. Let's have a look at, there's probably two other ones. Auto number, I want to tell you about auto number. Auto number, say for example you're making an invoicing system, and so the first invoice that someone has bought something from you is the first one, and then the second one is number 2, and the third one's number 3. You get the idea? It's a sequential way. You can actually set it to be an auto number so that the next record you put in, if the last one was 5, the next one will be 6. The next one will be 7. By default, that is unique. But can I give you a heads up here about hint? If you want to put a hint auto number, this is the big hint that you need to know. The hint about auto number is if you use auto number in a source table, this is important for you to write down. If you use auto numbers, this is the only way you can do it. If you use auto number in a source table, and then you relate it to a many table, this might not make sense yet, but it will if you do it. So what I'm saying is if you've got an auto number so that, the invoice is invoice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so they're unique automatically. If you want to link that to a many table, the many table field type has to be this. The many field type has to be long integer. If you don't, it won't do the link properly for you. So if you make something an auto number, the link to the other field has to be a long integer. That's the heads up about that. Yes, no. You remember the special thing about yes, no? The special thing about yes, no, it takes up 1/8 of a byte or 1 bit. So if it's just a straight yes, no, and there's nothing else as a possibility, make it a yes, no field. Okay, because you'll save space. If you've got a part in the database that you've got the web address of the if you've got the web address of the expert, you've got the email of an expert. If you want it so that when they click on it, it automatically goes to Outlook or goes to a browser, then choose hyperlink. And it will, by default, when they click on the email link or the web address, it will automatically open up the default application for that. Is that okay? Now, OLE object, what the heck is that? Let's say, for example, you've made a really neat database and you actually want some pictures to go into it. Okay, so you might have a picture of an amber light. You might have a picture of a bowbillic. If that is the case, you can use OLE object. Put it in big bolds with caveat or warning. You know what caveat is? Caveat is saying a warning. So I want you to realise there's a warning behind this. If you use OLE and you put in a table a graphic, if you put into a table a graphic, so let's say for example you've got a picture of Tweety Bird, it's a 255 GIF image. It takes up only, let's say, 20 kilobytes of data. What it will do, and this is a problem with Access, what it will actually do is it will read the size of it and actually convert it to a 16 million colour, a 16.7 million colour, no compression file. So you can actually put in a picture of a 20 kilobyte GIF file, and if you're not careful, that can then become 20 megabytes or 30 megabyte graphic file. Okay, so you have to be careful about doing it. There are some really neat ways of doing it using attachment. Okay, so if you want to put pictures into your actual database, just make a little comment that you need to see me or Miss Bennett about how to do it so that it doesn't take up a whole heap of space. You can do a bit of coding that works really nicely. And that is my very quick chipmunk version of data types.